Hello, this is Ryan from Amnesty, and I'm going to show you Maria Theresa, or Austria. I'm going to show you their victory conditions that I'd recommend if you were to play as her. I'll show you the social policies and her two unique units, which is the Hussar and the Coffee House. So, she has diplomatic marriage, which means she can spend gold to annex or puppet a city-state that has been your ally for 5 turns. So essentially what that means is you're going to want to play a diplomatic victory type condition or really a domination. And why for either of those is because based upon your personality trait, you're going to want to be friends with many city-states just in case you want to take their land, take their resources, take whatever. And again, you don't, when you buy, or in this case marry, a city-state, you don't have to annex them, so you don't need to take on that extra unhappiness. Now granted, you still get unhappiness out of puppeting things. Me personally, I always annex a city-state when I play Austria, basically because with the courthouse you can negate the negative effects. I mean, it's not right away that you can do that. I mean, if you want to buy many city-states, if you have the money to do so, you can do that. But I wouldn't recommend annexing all of them because you're going to have way too much unhappiness. You'd be better suited for puppeting them unless you have the happiness for it. But anyway, the top four victory conditions I'd recommend if you were playing Austria would be: number 1 is diplomatic, and that's for obvious reasons. You're able to buy or marry city-states, and by that, it's a little bit tricky because you'll want to be friends with all the city-states, but when you do buy them, that doesn't mean that they automatically give you a vote when you go to the UN. So it's a little bit weird, but generally if you're going to go with diplomatic victory, you don't want to buy all of them. So your best bet is to buy maybe 1 or 2 if they're really, really necessary for you because you need the land or whatever it may be. And then number 2 would be domination, and that's again due to her diplomatic marriage because you are able to buy the city-states. So let's say you're getting attacked and unfortunately you lost a city or 2, you made peace, and you just can't seem to expand, but there's city-states around you. You're able to buy those city-states and expand that way rather than building a settler and whatnot. And then also, in another regards, you're able to, rather than building settlers, you could actually buy city-states, so that way you already have them produce the population, some of the buildings. That way you don't have to actually, build settlers. And it kind of makes it easier in a way to send some play styles. And number 3 would be scientific. As any civilization that I'd recommend for domination in some regards, I'd recommend scientific. When you dominate, you have lots of land. It just may be lots of capitals and no other cities, but those capitals always bring something huge to the table scientifically. So with that being said, science is definitely a route you can go. And lastly would be culture. There really isn't much for culture as far as Maria Theresa goes here because she doesn't have a personality trait that helps you out. And yeah, I mean, there's really not much to it. You're not really, I mean, you could stay small. It is possible in some way, but it's really difficult. There's many more civilizations you could choose to go for a cultural victory. Anyway, I will show you the Hussar and the Coffee House. So the Hussar will cost you 225 production. He is a mounted unit. He has 34 combat bonus, a movement of 5. So he's a strong, fast-moving mounted unit. He has no defense terrain bonuses, meaning if you're on the hills, in the forests, you're not going to get a defensive bonus. They don't really serve you much of a purpose. He can move after attacking, so he's good at killing some units running away. He has a penalty attacking cities, which kind of sucks. If that wasn't there, this unit would be really, really powerful. So you don't really want to use these guys to attack cities unless you have tons of cannons or whichever to bomb the city, and then it's very weak and you can take it over. Don't use these guys to just attack a city out of the blue. Won't end well. He has extra sight, so he'll see farther, which is beneficial if you're fighting a war. And then he has an enhanced flank attack. So if you have a bunch of these all mushed up together, they are very dominant. Not against the city, unfortunately, but they are dominant against another standing army. And now the Coffee House. It costs 250 production. It's 2 maintenance of gold. Production is increased by 5%, plus 2 production. It'll give you 25% great people generation in the city. So it is helpful to an extent. It really doesn't help all that much. The only thing it does, it's nice to have the extra production there. It does replace the windmill, and generally you always do want to build a windmill in many cities. So I mean, if you generally you always build a windmill in most cities. So it's just kind of an added bonus that you get great people out of it. With that being said, I will show you the social policies that I recommend if you were to play Austria. Before I talk about the social policy, I'll tell you about Austria's start bias. Now, some say there isn't a start bias for some civilizations, but I say phooey, that's not true. I believe every civilization does, and for Vienna, you normally will start off in grassland, sometimes plains, normally won't be in the desert. For some reason, you're normally in a jungle. Now, in the real world, Austria is not in jungle. It's warmer than, say, Russia, but it's no jungle. But anyway, for Civilization 5, it tends to make you go into grasslands, marshlands, jungles, and when you're lucky, plains. And you'll kind of be near mountains as well. At any rate, I will show you these social policies I would recommend if you were to play as Austria. Definitely go with Liberty. Liberty will help you expand quickly. By doing that, it will help you out in terms of generating gold. Obviously not right away, but in the long term, you will make more money than if you were to just hunker down in one big old city. And what would you do with the money? Obviously, you would start befriending city-states for your diplomatic marriage. And with that said, you'll want to pair that up with patronage, so that way you don't need it. Gets you to be friendly, allied with the city-state much quicker than otherwise, because once you get allied up with a city-state, after 5 turns, you will be able to buy their whole city-state, and it goes to you. You have the decision to make it a puppet or annex the city, and from there you kind of choose what you want to do. But as always, if you are looking for a diplomatic victory in this kind of setting, you don't want to buy them. Actually, you just want to befriend them, and that's about it. But if you do want to buy like 1 or 2, I'd say it's okay, considering you don't need all city-states to be on your side generally when you play a diplomatic game. But again, the ones that you do buy, I highly suggest you buy them for a strategic reason, whether it be a strategic resource, luxury resource, or just the land for whatever reason it may be. Anyway, thank you for watching my video for Austria. Please rate, subscribe, and comment, and watch my other videos.